one of the interesting experiences I've had is that I was actually a student of Bart Ehrman's in the late 80s as an incoming freshman at UNC Chapel Hill. In fact, he had just arrived a year or two before I did as a new assistant professor, and I had him as a student in his New Testament class. And as any typical undergraduate student, I knew very little about the Bible. I was a committed Christian, but I didn't know anything about historical issues. I wasn't equipped to deal with any of the onslaught that was coming my way. But I spent an entire semester wrestling with the historical issues that Ehrman raised that year. And as I look back now, I realize that in many ways, Ehrman is to receive a degree of credit for my own academic career because it was his questions that had led me to find answers. And I pursued those answers vigorously, not only as an undergraduate, but beyond that, into master's work and eventually PhD work in New Testament and early Christianity. The questions that Ehrman raises actually are good questions. And this is the thing that is important for every Christian to realize, is that he's not asking wrong questions. The question is whether he's given the right answers. We ought to be able to probe into our Christian faith deeply, historically, and intellectually, and find it to be sound. At the time when I was a student with Ehrman and he was a professor, I didn't have the answers. But what I was convinced of is that there were answers, and that, that Christians didn't believe in vain, and that if there was time spent, that these answers could be discovered. And in my own academic experience, what I've discovered is remarkable confirmation of my own beliefs over time. I've had the opportunity to do academic work, particularly in the area of the New Testament canon and in the area of apocryphal gospels. And the more I study apocryphal literature, the more I realize how unique, in particular, the canonical gospels are, how they stand alone in the ancient world as stories of Jesus that are incredibly modest in their claims. When I say modest, what I mean is you don't see signs of embellishment, you don't see signs of sanitized accounts. You see very straightforward proclamations about who Jesus was. And you see straightforward proclamations about who the disciples were, warts and all. And what you see is an incredible amount of indications in the gospel accounts of historical integrity. And so my journey started with being a freshman at Carolina without many answers. And as I've probed into these things over the years, I've been amazed at how strong the evidence is for the veracity of the canonical gospels. Early church fathers rallied around these four from the very beginning. At the very start, it was Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and always seemed to be. So much so that the early church father Irenaeus said that these four are the only four as certain as the four directions of the world. And I think that he was right. We can have confidence in these books, and I think that when we see these four Gospels in the canon, we can be assured that we've been delivered the ones that tell us the real story of Jesus Christ.